Hi, this is Maria Williams. Today I'm making a mailbox card that is a regular card and also has a gift card tucked away inside the mailbox. I'm really excited about using these products. I'm using the Mailbox gift card holder dies, the skinny alphabet dies, and a variety of cardstocks from the stamp market. I also have some Nina Solar White cardstock, and the four colors I'm going to be using from the stamp market are Party Pink, Melon Orange, Citrine, and Tropic Teal. I am totally in love with these cardstocks from the stamp market. All these colors are part of their Color Crush collection. So to get started, I'm going to be using the mailbox die, the gift card holder insert die, the slot for the mailbox, and also the rectangle and the envelope flap. The original stamp set that came out with this set of dies is called Merry Mail, but since it was a Christmassy one and I bought this die set after Christmas, I didn't get it. And now there is a new stamp set called Mailbox Messages that has things like sending some handmade love, sending happy mail. Anyway, it's really cute. It's got different fonts. I've ordered it, so hopefully I will post a card on my blog with that stamp set. So my original plan was to cut the card out of mirror cardstock, foil cardstock. I'm not sure. Different people call it different things. But I was having some issues. The foil cardstock can get damaged really easily. It really takes on the marks from your cutting plates. So I even took a brand new cutting plate. So I put my precision plate on the bottom, put some printer paper down to prevent whatever was on the precision plate from marking the foil cardstock. And then I needed to put a small piece of tape to hold the cardstock and the die in place. And then when I run it through with my brand new plate so there wouldn't be any marks, the tape left a mark on the cardstock. So I changed my plan. I die cut one of the mailboxes from the foil cardstock, not doubled or anything, just a single sheet of foil cardstock just to create one mailbox shape that has the flap on the side, which I will cut off later. And then I die cut my card out of 110-pound Nina Solar White cardstock. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that you do this on your machine. You may want to use a slightly thinner cardstock. I tend to be kind of hard on my supplies and I try things and so far so good. So this die will cut through the two layers of 110-pound cardstock. So I basically did what I was doing before, which is to fold the cardstock in half and then put the creased side just inside the cut line of the die and then put a piece of tape to hold it in place and run it through my Big Shot. This way, instead of getting two die cut shapes, I will get just one large shape that is connected on that side that is just inside the cut line. Full disclosure, this is what my die looks like after cutting two layers of that thick cardstock, so you may want to use a thinner cardstock. I've gone ahead and die cut the slider mechanism that will hold the gift card out of 80-pound Nina Solar White cardstock. And then I am taking the foil piece, the foil die cut, and folding the flap that will catch that slider mechanism. And then what I need to do is cut the flaps from the card base, all of them, because I'm not going to need to attach anything with them or make it part of the mechanism. So you can either use a paper trimmer that has I don't know what you call these blades, but not a rotary blade because you're going to have a hard time knowing when to start and when to stop the cuts. Or you can use scissors, or you can use a craft knife and cutting mat. I think in the end I like the ruler and the craft knife the best. I did use my mini paper trimmer to cut the flaps from the sides of the mailboxes, but I could just as easily have used the other paper trimmer or the craft knife and the mat. Next, I'm going to do the rest of the die cutting. So the first thing I need to do is mark the edges of the slider on the back of the silver mailbox die cut so that I can cut the mailbox slot. So I want to make sure that the slider doesn't get caught on this opening, so I need to make sure I cut the mailbox slot above the loose end of the slider. I marked the center of the mailbox using a centering ruler, and then I just placed the mailbox slot onto the back of the foil piece and secured it with a piece of purple tape and run it through my die cutting machine. And when I line up the slider piece with the foil piece that is the front of my card, you can see that the loose end of the slider flap is below the mailbox slot, so that is not going to get in the way of this working properly. Moving on to the letters, I'm just cutting small pieces of each color of cardstock, making sure that the letter that I'm going to cut out of it fits onto that scrap, and then I'm just going to run them through my die cutting machine all at one time. My original plan was to simply glue all the letters directly onto the silver mailbox, but when I put them on there after they were die cut, I thought that they didn't stand out enough and everything looked really plain. So I took a stitched square die, this particular one is from Stampin' Up, and I cut a piece of 80-pound Nina white cardstock, solar white cardstock, and then glued the letters onto the square and then glued the square onto the mailbox. The dimensions of this particular square are about 2 5/8 by 2 5/8, and of course you could use one that's a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. In order to make it easier to attach the letters to the square, I took a piece of tape and taped the square down to my work surface. But then I figured that in order to get the letters straight, I needed some kind of a guide. So I took another piece of tape and figured out where I wanted the bottom of my letters to go and just placed it on the bottom of the square, and that gave me a good reference for my letters. To make sure that I got the spacing of the letters right, I first attached them to the square with some repositionable adhesive. You could totally skip this step if you feel comfortable just adding glue to your letters and gluing them down, but I really didn't want to mess this up, so I just, like I said, stuck them down with repositionable adhesive. Why is that so hard? And then one by one picked them up and added the liquid glue and glued them down. Another thing that I did to make sure that I got my letters evenly spaced out is I glued the M and the L down first, and then I glued the A and the L after. The Happy die cut comes from the Stamp Market's stamp and die set called Hip Hip Hooray, which I've used in multiple cards already. But anyway, I just stamped it with versafine black onyx ink and then just secured the die with a little bit of tape and run it through my die cutting machine. I attached it to the card with some more Nouveau deluxe adhesive glue. I didn't want to add any foam squares or anything because I didn't want to create any more dimension. The card is already going to be kind of bulky with the gift card in it and everything, so I just used glue. I'm now going to put the card together, so I am taking some 1/4 inch strong double-sided adhesive tape, and I'm applying it to the card base. I don't know why I did it this way. I could have easily attached it to the front of the card where I had already marked the boundaries of the slider, but it doesn't really matter which panel you put it on. And then I peeled away the backers from the tape that I had put on the top of the card and on one side of the card, put my slider in there, and then made sure that everything was going to fit properly, and then removed the adhesive backer from the other side. I tested it out a couple times and everything seemed to be good, so I then used some strong tape runner. This isn't my favorite, it's really bulky, but my husband gave it to me, so I use it. And so anyway, so I use that to attach my square to the front of the mailbox, and now I'm going to make an envelope. To do that, I'm simply cutting out the rectangle and the little envelope flap triangle, and I'm cutting this out of some pattern paper from the Color Crush paper pack, and at first I was just going to use the polka dot pattern, but then when I flipped the flap over to put the glue on it, I thought that it might be kind of fun to have the flap be a different pattern than the envelope itself, so that's how I set it up. Last but not least, I added a small heart that I die cut with the Bear Hugs Little Hearts die out of Party Pink cardstock to the corner of the flap just for a little extra embellishment. And then I'm going to insert the envelope into the mailbox slot. I wanted to make sure that the envelope didn't interfere with the slider, so I inserted it into the slot and marked it with a pencil and then trimmed that off. And then I just added a very small amount of glue to the edge of the envelope and extra glue to the back where it was going to come in contact with the mailbox. And then I just placed it there and made sure that the mechanism worked with the envelope in there. And then I just let it dry. I pulled out my Lawn Fawn stamp set called Push Here, and I'm going to stamp the Pull Here sentiment so that my recipient knows that there's something there using the versafine black onyx ink. That completes today's card. I love the way this card turned out. I love the kind of the shine of the mailbox with the silver foil cardstock. And I love all these interactive dies that, dies for interactive cards that Lawn Fawn and Concord and Ninth and the Stamp Market are all coming out with. I think they're so much fun to make cards with. So hopefully you got some tips for this one in particular. It's a great versatile set. And again, there's a new stamp set that just came out yesterday, February 5th. So you have that option too. All right, thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next video. For links to the products I use and still shots, please visit my blog at mariascardsandmore.com. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.